Listen carefully, because what you're about to hear might change the way you see yourself forever. You think your problem is laziness. You think your problem is lack of motivation. But what if I told you the real problem is much deeper than that? What if I told you that every time you quit, every time you delay, every time you say I'll start tomorrow, it's not weakness, it's programming, a pattern, a loop, running inside your mind, controlling your actions, controlling your future without you even realizing it. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your discipline. And right now, your discipline is deciding your life. So the question is not, do you want to succeed? The real question is, are you ready to become someone who does what needs to be done, no matter how they feel? Because that is where everything changes. Every morning, there are two types of people in this world. The first one wakes up, hits snooze, and goes back to sleep. Not because they're tired, but because they don't feel like getting up. The second one also feels tired, also doesn't feel like getting up, but they get up anyway. Same feeling, different action, and that is the difference between average and elite. See, most people think successful people are special. They think they're more motivated, they have more energy, they're different. But the truth, they feel the same resistance, the same laziness, the same doubt. The difference is they don't obey it. They've trained themselves to act despite it, and that's skill. That ability to move forward without permission from your emotions is called discipline. But here's where it gets interesting. Discipline is not just about action. It's about psychology. Because if you don't understand how your mind works, you will always lose to it. Let's break this down. Why do people fail to stay consistent? Why do they start strong and then disappear? Why do they promise themselves change and then break that promise? It's not because they're weak. It's because they're unaware of how their brain operates. You see, your brain has one primary goal: to keep you safe, not successful, not rich, not disciplined. Safe, and safety means avoiding pain, avoiding risk, avoiding discomfort. So every time you try to improve your life, your brain sees it as a threat. Think about it. When you try to wake up early, go to the gym, work hard, focus deeply, you are stepping outside your comfort zone, and your brain, it doesn't like that. So it fights back, not with logic, but with feelings. It makes you feel tired, lazy, distracted, overwhelmed. And because you trust your feelings, you obey them. You say, I'll do it later. And just like that, you lose again. This is the cycle. This is the trap. And most people stay stuck in it their entire lives. Now listen carefully, because this might be hard to hear. Your life right now is a reflection of your discipline, not your dreams, not your intentions, not your plans, your discipline. You can have the biggest goals in the world, but if your actions don't match them, they mean nothing. And here's the brutal truth. You don't become successful by accident. You become successful by repetition, daily, boring, uncomfortable repetition. But most people, they don't want that. They want shortcuts. They want quick results. They want success without struggle. And when they don't get it, they quit. Let me say something powerful. Every time you choose comfort over effort, you are training yourself to be weak. Every time you delay action, you are reinforcing procrastination. Every time you break your promise to yourself, you are destroying your self-trust. And once you lose trust in yourself, everything falls apart, because success is built on one thing: keeping the promises you make to yourself. But most people, they don't even realize they're lying to themselves every day. I'll start tomorrow. I'll do it later. I'll change soon. No, you won't, because tomorrow is just another excuse if you don't change today. So now the question becomes, if your brain is working against you, if your habits are controlling you, if your identity is limiting you, then how do you break free? How do you reprogram your mind to work for you instead of against you? How do you become disciplined, even when you don't feel like it? That is where everything changes. We go deeper into the psychology, the identity, and the transformation that separates winners from everyone else. Let's go deeper, because what you're fighting is not your habits, it's your identity. Most people think discipline is about forcing yourself to work harder, pushing yourself, motivating yourself, trying again and again. But that approach fails. Why? Because you are trying to fight your nature instead of changing it. Your brain doesn't care about what you want. It cares about who you believe you are. Let me explain. Every action you take is a reflection of your identity. not your goals, not your motivation, your identity. If you believe I'm not consistent, then no matter how motivated you feel today, you will eventually act in a way that proves that belief true. If you believe I always quit, then sooner or later you will quit again. Not because you have to, but because your brain is trying to stay consistent with your identity. This is the hidden force controlling your life, and most people never become aware of it. They keep setting goals, but they never change the person chasing those goals. So they stay stuck year after year. Same habits, same excuses, same life. There's a loop happening in your mind right now, and it looks like this: thought, action, result, identity, thought again. Let's break it down. You think I'm lazy, so you act lazy. That creates results, no progress. Then your brain says, see, I told you, this is who you are. And the loop continues, stronger, deeper, harder to break. Now imagine this. You wake up one day and say, I'm going to change my life. You feel motivated. You take action. But then one day, you fail. You skip a workout. You waste time. You break your routine. And instantly, your brain says, this isn't you. You can't do this. You always go back. And just like that, you're back where you started. This is why motivation doesn't work. Because motivation is temporary, but identity is permanent. Discipline is not something you do. It's something you become. Read that again, because this is where everything changes. Most people try to act disciplined, but they still see themselves as lazy, inconsistent, weak. So their actions never last. But high performers, they don't rely on motivation. They don't rely on feelings.
They rely on identity.
They've made a decision. This is who I am. I don't miss. I don't quit. I execute. And once that identity is set, everything else follows, because your brain will always try to prove you right. Now the question is, how do you change your identity? How do you become someone who is naturally disciplined? Here's the answer. You don't change it overnight. You build it, one action at a time, but not just any action, intentional actions. Let's break this into steps. Step 1, destroy your old identity. You cannot build a new version of yourself while holding on to the old one. Right now, you have a story in your head, a story that says, I'm not disciplined, I'm not focused, I always fail. That story is your prison, and until you challenge it, you will stay inside it. So from today, you stop repeating that story. No more, I can't. No more, I'm like this. You replace it with, I'm changing, I'm building discipline, I'm becoming stronger, because the words you repeat shape the person you become. Step 2, prove it with action. Your brain doesn't believe words. It believes evidence. So if you want a new identity, you need proof. Small wins, daily wins, consistent wins. Not big dramatic changes, simple actions. Waking up when you said you would. Doing the work even when it's boring. Finishing what you started. Every time you do that, you send a message to your brain. This is who I am now. And slowly, your identity begins to shift. Step 3, make it non-negotiable. This is where most people fail. They treat discipline like an option. If I feel good, I'll do it. If I'm motivated, I'll try. No, that mindset will destroy you. Discipline starts when negotiation ends. You don't debate. You don't delay. You decide. And then you execute, no matter what. Because every time you negotiate with your mind, you give it power over you. Now let's go even deeper, because discipline is not just behavior. It's neurological. Every time you repeat an action, you strengthen a neural pathway. Think of it like a road. The more you use it, the easier it becomes to travel. Right now, your brain has strong pathways for procrastination, distraction, comfort. That's why it feels natural. That's why it's easy. But when you try to build discipline, you're creating a new path. And at first, it feels hard, unnatural, uncomfortable. But if you keep going, that path becomes stronger. And eventually, it becomes automatic. This is how discipline is built. Not in one day, but in repetition. There comes a moment when something changes. You stop relying on motivation. You stop waiting for the perfect time. You stop caring about how you feel. And you realize something powerful. Feelings are temporary, but discipline is a decision. From that moment on, you become dangerous, because now you act even when you're tired. You work even when it's boring. You show up even when it's hard. And most importantly, you stop breaking promises to yourself. This is where confidence is built, not from success, but from self-trust, knowing that no matter what happens, you will show up. And once you reach this level, you don't need motivation anymore, because you've become someone who cannot stop. Now you understand the psychology. You understand the identity. You understand the system behind behind discipline. But there's still one problem: knowing is not enough. Because most people, they understand everything, but they still don't act. Why? Because they don't have a system, a structure, a daily blueprint that forces discipline into their life. And in part 3, we build that system step by step, a complete blueprint to make discipline automatic, to eliminate procrastination, and to turn you into someone who executes every single day. Now listen carefully, because this is where most people fail. They understand everything. They feel inspired. They say, this time will be different. But a few days later, they're back to the same habits. Why? Because they rely on emotion instead of systems. And discipline without a system will always collapse. So we fix that. Right now, Rule 1, remove choice completely. Discipline is not about making better decisions. It's about making fewer decisions. Because every time you think, should I do it or not, you create a chance to fail. So eliminate that question. You don't ask, should I wake up early? You decide once, and then it becomes automatic. Same time, every day. No thinking, no debating, because thinking leads to delay, and delay leads to failure. Rule 2, build non-negotiables. You don't need 20 habits. You need 2 to 3 non-negotiable rules. Rules that define your day. For example, I wake up at the same time daily. I do 1 hour of focused work. I avoid distractions in the morning. That's it. Simple, but powerful. Because when something is non-negotiable, there is no discussion. You either do it or you break your identity. Rule 3, design your environment. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. If your phone is next to you, you will scroll. If distractions are everywhere, you will lose focus. So don't rely on discipline alone. Make discipline easier. Put your phone away. Create a clean workspace. Remove triggers of distraction, because success is not about resisting temptation. It's about removing it. Rule 4, use the 5-second rule. The moment you feel resistance, act immediately. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Move, because hesitation is dangerous. The longer you wait, the stronger your excuses become. Action kills doubt, always. Rule 5, track consistency, not perfection. Stop chasing perfect days. They don't exist. Focus on one thing. Did you show up? Even if it wasn't perfect, even if it wasn't your best, you showed up. And that is how discipline is built. Daily discipline, blueprint, step-by-step system. Now let's make this real. Here's a simple daily structure that can completely change your life. Morning. Control the start. Your morning sets the tone for everything. If you lose your morning, you lose your day. So, wake up at a fixed time. No phone for the first 30 minutes. Do something productive immediately, even something small, because the first action of your day creates momentum. Deep work block. This is where your life changes. 1-2 hours of focused work. No distractions. No notifications. No excuses. This is where progress happens. Not in 10-minute efforts, but in deep focused sessions. Evening reflection. At the end of the day, ask yourself one question. Did I keep my promises today? If yes, you're building discipline. If no, you adjust. No guilt, no excuses, just awareness, because awareness creates change. Anti-procrastination system, kill the habit forever. Procrastination is not laziness, it's avoidance. You avoid things that feel hard, boring, uncomfortable. So here's how you destroy it. 1, make it small. Don't say, I'll work for 5 hours. Say, I'll start for 10 minutes, because starting is the hardest part. Once you begin, momentum takes over. Remove distractions completely. Not reduce, remove. Because partial focus, no results. 3, accept discomfort. This is the key. You stop expecting it to feel good. You accept, this will be hard, and I'll do it anyway. That mindset alone destroys procrastination. Elite habits, what separates the top 1%. Let's take it to another level. Here's what elite performers understand. Elite habits, what separates the top 1%. Let's take it to another level. Here's what elite performers understand. They don't rely on motivation. They show up regardless of how they feel. They keep promises to themselves, even small ones, because self-trust is everything. They embrace boredom. They don't need constant stimulation. They can sit, focus, and execute. They think long-term. They don't chase instant results. They build daily, patiently, relentlessly. At the end of the day, your life is not controlled by what you say. It's controlled by what you repeat. Every day, you are becoming someone. not in the future, right now, with every decision. So the question is, who are you becoming? The one who quits? The one who delays? The one who keeps starting over? Or the one who shows up no matter what? Because listen carefully, nobody is coming to fix your life. No perfect moment, no perfect motivation, no perfect conditions, just you and your choices every single day. Discipline is not something you find. It's something you decide. So decide right now that no matter how you feel, you will show up. That no matter how hard it gets, you will continue. That no matter how many times you fail, you will not stop. Because once you reach that level, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. And when you become stronger, everything changes. Your habits, your mindset, your future. So don't wait. Don't delay. Don't think. Start right now.